You're listening to the Public Health Entrepreneurs Podcast with your host, Dr. Charlotte Huntley. Greetings, everyone, and thank you for joining us on this episode. On this podcast, we explore topics of interest for professionals at this intersection of public health and entrepreneurship. My name is Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and I'm really happy that you've decided to join me on this episode. I'm a public health entrepreneur, and I do have well over 25 years of experience in healthcare and also in public health, and I've supported so many entrepreneurs along the way. I've also been podcasting since 2017, and I'm a huge fan of this platform. So on this particular episode, I really want to focus on the topic of family members. And I'm going to share some personal perspectives here, but I'm curious to know, does your family understand what you do and who you serve? That's a fair question. For myself as an epidemiologist, epidemiologist by trade, when I started consulting, and we do niche down and do epidemiology specific types of consulting projects. But on the journey from this as my professional career as a job employee for someone into consulting, I've always shied away, or I used to shy away from trying to explain to people because it was always so complicated. Even back when I worked in clinical laboratory setting, I was in microbiology, and it was always just complicated trying to explain what I do. I remember my mom got to the point where she knew I had something to do with the blood. And so that's how she would sell it to people. Like, oh yeah, Charlotte, she works in a lab. I don't know, something to do with the blood. And for years, even as I moved into my public health role, she still kind of deferred back to that explanation. And it was just so hard for me to try to explain what I do. That's not unique to me. I know a lot of us are like that. And a lot of people, not just epidemiology, but when you think about public health, if you think about before the pandemic, when people really weren't paying any attention to us, it seemed like, why even bother to explain this? This is just complicated. And then once the pandemic kicked in, everybody was hearing public health and epidemiology a lot. They were starting to ask more questions. And it was really hard to try to explain even at that point. So I'm giving you that story. Part one of it, well, one reason I want to share it is because I understand if you are withholding trying to explain what you do, because public health is broad and sometimes it's kind of complicated and people don't fully understand compared to, say, healthcare. But the other part of that is because it is so important to take the time and it's worth the effort to try to explain to your family members because they want to help you. Okay, so sometimes the work is complicated and hard to explain, but is so worth the effort. Years ago, I started making an effort to explain. And the more I made the effort to explain, the more I learned about how I needed to use different phrases, because sometimes we're all guilty of this in public health. We will use language that is public health centric and we understand it. And when we try to explain it with our own language, other people are still not understanding what we're trying to describe. So I think it's important to find a way to explain it to the general public anyway. But specifically now as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, your family members want to see you succeed. They are genuinely excited to support you, but they need to know how to support you. My mother was always bragging about what I was doing. She was proud of me, but I needed to help her understand and give her the words and the terminology to explain so that when as she would tell her story, then she was more accurate. And they're often going to be bringing people to you. Sometimes as they're out there telling the story and talking up what you're doing with other people, they are helping to recruit business for you. So if we can invest some time into making sure that they understand what you do, what we do on a very conversational level, then at least the people that they're going to be attracting or bringing to you are going to be more aligned and good prospects for you. People that will want to, a good fit for what you're offering and how you can help. Remember, they're bragging. They're out there telling people what you do. And if they have a decade-old version of what you do that they're telling, then that's a missed opportunity. And I realized that in the case with my mother, but also with other family members. So not long ago, maybe about 2 years ago, I set a goal, and each quarter I made a plan to meet with and just have a catch up call with a family member. You know how I have a big family. So there's always, people are busy and we're always doing a lot of things. But once a quarter, I thought that was very doable. I wanted to just have some time to talk with a cousin or a relative that maybe I hadn't talked to in a while, learn about what they're doing, listen to them, and then talk to them a little bit more about what I was doing in a way that could help them understand. Like, you want to help them find the conversational language so that they can convey that to other people, or also because of, we have like I said, a big family. So I remember being in a conversation with a relative who's a lawyer, and we had multiple conversations. So another side note here is you don't have to infuse everything in one conversation and, have them just get it. But we engaged in a few conversations, and it turns out that the organization she support is actually a potential good client for me. We've, continued that conversation sort of in the background. But by doing that, she has a much better understanding of how I'm able to provide support through my consulting services. And it's on her radar. And likewise, I have a much better understanding of the kind of clients that she supports. And I've already we've been able to kind of share introductions just based on that better understanding. So I have another family story I'll share with you in just a moment, but I want you to see how this is a good investment of your time, because these are people that know you, they're excited for you, they want to brag about you, they can potentially bring you a really good pipeline of good referrals, potential candidates. It's not always that they will connect you with your ideal client, but they may connect you with someone who will then connect you with someone, and then that becomes someone that you do business with. So this is a great streamlined, direct way to connect business. For a lot of consultants, this is how they get their initial clients, or this is how they get the majority of their clients. Then this referral base, like leveraging your network, starting with your family. So the very family members that you may feel like this is too complicated to explain, I don't want to do all this, that's a rich ground. And I encourage you to connect with family members. So here's another story, a recent story with this in mind. I have a family member who reached out to me to gauge interest. Actually, one of their colleagues reached out to me. They introduced me to someone that we have, our backgrounds are a little bit more clear or more aligned. But this family member understands, not in great detail what I do, but they do understand the problem I solve through my consulting and the type of clients that I like to work with, that we are excited to work with. They understand that really well. So they connected me with someone, and their colleague reached out and asked me if I would be interested in meeting to talk about a potential submitting a proposal on a project. In the conversation, it's a perfect project for me, something I'm very excited about. It is absolutely aligned with the ideal client type for me. I was thinking as I was in this meeting, we've already had a couple of meetings, but about 3 or 4 people. It occurred to me that this was such a great use of my time. Our time, we're all very busy, right? We have very limited space on our calendars. We can't meet with everybody who's interested in me. How many times if you had a meeting with someone who wanted to meet with you and you get 5 minutes into it and you realize that that's not anywhere near the kind of work that you do or you even like to do? Okay, well, when you share with family and they get to know you, and then this kind of scenario happens, like with my family member. So I'm in this meeting and it's a great project. It's well aligned. And it's a great use of time in terms of me, this discovery. This is like part 3 of the discovery phase of this. And it looks like they're looking to put a team together that can then submit this proposal by the deadline. And just the conversations have been so rich and full of connections and sharing resources, and just like all the right people are at the table. So I got to thinking how much I would love to have all of my meetings be like this. All of the conversations I have about potential projects or onboarding be this high quality, where it's really aligned with the type of work that I like to do, the type of clients that I like to serve and support. And that's another reason why I'm hammering in this thought for you, or these strategies or tips for you, and really urging you to connect with your family members and make sure that they understand what you do. So the problem you solve through your business, the focus, the target population that you serve, and the type of clients that you like to work with. If they can grasp one of those three, then they're going to likely be bringing you up in conversations and bringing, some people are natural connectors. I think I'm one of those people. I'm a natural connector. When my network has gotten pretty broad, and I definitely leverage this with the members of my mastermind group. When I get to know their businesses as they come on board, I'm often thinking about who to connect them with, or who, sometimes two people will come in mind, and I just know that they should get together and have a conversation. And so those natural connectors, they are naturally going to bring and connect the two people or two or three parties together that they feel have some alignment and synergy. So people like that, those natural connectors, need to understand what you do, and you have them in your family. I promise you, probably, you may not have thought about it that way up until now, but it's just, if you have a large family, come up with a strategy. Don't overwhelm yourself. If you have a small family, regardless, just think about, set an intention to connect with family members and start having conversations so that they understand what you do. So a couple of things, the language part can be tricky. Even when you think you're conveying it clearly, it still has room for improvement. So I used to use the word epidemiology often because, I like it. I worked really hard to learn that title and phrase. So I found myself really trying to explain it a little differently, or when I say it, I'm prepared to explain what it means and not just say it and leave it hanging out there and assume that people understand what it means. Another thing that we serve in our consulting, we serve BIPOC nonprofit organizations. So these nonprofit organizations that are BIPOC led or serve BIPOC communities. So I use that so casually until someone in my family said, well, what is BIPOC really? I hear it all the time, but I'm not sure I know what that is. And as soon as they said that, I instantly made a mental note that we have to start to break that down in our language. So on our other podcasts, every time we say that, I'd say about 85, 90% of the time that we say it, I also explain what it means. So Black, Indigenous, people of color communities. So we don't just make assumptions. So sometimes the language in the conversation with your family members can help you know how to further craft your message and how you explain to people what you do and who you serve. So keep a lot of these things in mind. And not only, it's not just a one-time conversation. I think it's an ongoing conversation with family members. They need to know what you do, who you serve, and then keep them up to date. I have some older relatives that I have conversations with, and I will update them on things that are happening and what we're doing. And I make sure that I strive to put that language together. I know that when my mother, I would explain a lot of what I was doing because she didn't understand like public health, like what is that? But my mother did a lot of similar work without the title of public health back in her day. So sometimes I would explain what I was doing, but then I give her an example from her own stories of in her working days so that she could relate to it. That helped a lot with how she began to understand more about what I was doing. I just encourage you to do that. It's worth the effort because, like I said, the family members, they want you to succeed. They're really invested in you already. And they are likely and have their own circles of friends and colleagues. And you just never know what people may be looking for and where that overlap may or may not be. And I wouldn't even go into friends and close friends and coworkers, but I'm really focused on the family. I think that's such a missed opportunity for a lot of us. And I encourage you to start the conversations, continue having the conversations, and they will help you to practice how you pitch your business, how you introduce your business, how you talk about your business. And their follow-up questions are going to help you better develop the language around communicating your business and about the work that you do. All right. I hope that this is helpful. I know that in our mastermind program, we dive into this quite a lot actually, not just with family, but just in general, how we're communicating about our businesses. So this awesome mastermind group program is best suited for established entrepreneurs. And we work together online and also gather together in person for a 2-day retreat. We do this twice a year. We have entrepreneurs that come from all over the United States and other countries even to participate in our in-person retreats. I love this program, and we get a lot of great feedback from our members. So if you're interested, if you think that you would be interested in learning more about this, Enrollment is only open twice a year, June and December, and only to people who have submitted an application. So if you'd like to know more about it, visit our website and submit an application at publichealthentrepreneurs.com. You'll find links to this also in the description of this episode as well. You can learn more about it, and we'd love to invite you to join us if it's a good fit. All right, so we are going to wrap up for now. I hope this has been helpful. I can't wait. I love the feedback. So share with us and let us know how this is helping you. All right, everyone. Until next time, have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you for listening. Visit publichealthentrepreneurs.com to learn more.